The sun doesn't rise on its own. It opens because something ancient blinked. Not a god, not a machine, a creature. One that sleeps at the edge of the world and holds the balance of time in its face. When it opens its eyes, the sky burns. When it closes them, darkness returns. This is not a metaphor. In Chinese mythology, the day and night exist because of a single being, Zhulong. His breath heats the world. His body wraps around mountains you've never seen. And his face, impossibly human, remains still as his eyes decide whether the world continues or collapses. You've never heard of him because those who have don't speak lightly. They describe him in fragments: a dragon too large to measure, a face carved from bronze, eyes brighter than stars. He doesn't roar. He doesn't fly. He watches, and when he stirs, the atmosphere shifts. In some legends, the sun is not a star. It's a shadow of his attention. That's why his name is whispered, not worshipped. Because if Zhulong ever opens his eyes too wide, everything catches fire. Zhulong is not a beast of battle or rage. He does not move, speak, or hunt. He lies still, coiled across a landscape that no human has ever reached, in a place called the extreme north, where time no longer flows and the wind refuses to blow. His body stretches across mountains like a living continent, covered in scales that glow like slow-burning embers. But it is his face that defies logic. It is human in shape, but inhuman in scale, smooth and silent like a statue of forgotten divinity. No mouth moves. No words are spoken. Only the eyes matter. When his golden eyes open, they emit beams of pure light that do not just illuminate. They command the sun itself to rise. When his eyes close, the world returns to night. This is not symbolism. In the ancient texts, there is no poetic layer. The sun exists because Zhulong has opened his eyes. The earth is warm because his breath flows across the land. He breathes only once in what could be centuries, but that one breath carries the weight of seasons. Snow melts, rivers awaken, forests bloom. If he were to stop, the world would freeze in silence. And yet, he is not divine. He is not praised in temples. He is not feared like demons or worshipped like sky gods. He is a function, a law-given flesh, a creature that does not choose to sustain the world, but does so simply by being. The danger is not in what he might do. It is in the fact that he doesn't need to do anything at all. His presence alone bends the shape of reality. The ancient text known as the Shanhai Jing describes Zhulong with no hesitation. It says he has the body of a serpent and the face of a man, that his eyes open to create daylight, and when they close, night falls over the land. There is no metaphor in these lines. Zhulong is not the god of the sun. He is the sun's reason for being. His gaze does not reflect sunlight. It births it. His breath does not warm the world gently. It is the furnace beneath all seasons. The legends place him at the edge of existence, in the coldest and most unreachable region known as the extreme north. There, he lies in stillness, curled around a range of lifeless peaks, unmoving and unseen. But his influence stretches across the world like a tide that never recedes. The mythology warns that the balance of night and day is not guaranteed. It is a side effect of his slumber. His waking is not catastrophic because of violence, but because of function. If Zhulong were ever to awaken fully, if both eyes open for too long, the result would not be flames or floods. It would be the unraveling of the system itself. The sun would never set. Shadows would vanish. Time would collapse. Life on Earth depends not on a decision, but on the closed eyes of something too vast to understand. His danger lies in simplicity. He is not evil. He is not angry. He simply is. And that is enough to hold the sky in place. There are no prayers to Zhulong, no altars built in his name, no festivals in his honor. Because he is not a deity in the way humans understand gods. He is not swayed by offerings, not moved by devotion. You cannot plead with him to keep the sun rising. You cannot ask him for mercy. Zhulong does not hear. He does not respond. He only endures. His body is so vast that it wraps through mountains like a living horizon, and yet he is not seen. His eyes, when open, flood the sky with such intense light that stars vanish and the moon retreats. Ancient artists never tried to depict him in full, only fragments, a scale, an eye, a glow in the mist. Because to see Zhulong is not to witness beauty or terror. It is to confront scale beyond comprehension. And this is the truth that makes him the most dangerous creature you've never heard of. Every force that sustains life, light, heat, time, flows from him, not by will, but by inertia. If something disturbs his position, if his breath halts, if his eyes open too far or close too long, the consequences ripple across the universe. And yet, he continues to sleep, somewhere at the border between light and darkness, wrapped in silence, motionless, watching a world that only exists because he has not yet changed his gaze. In some forgotten versions of the myth, it is said that Zhulong once stirred, not fully, not violently, but enough. One eye opened wider than usual, and a stretch of the world burned for 9 days. The rivers boiled, the crops withered, people and animals collapsed beneath a sun that would not move. The sky lost its color, the wind died, and then, just as suddenly, the eye closed again. Night returned, and with it, silence. The event was never explained. No war caused it, no curse. Only a moment of attention from something that was never meant to notice us. That is the kind of danger Zhulong represents, not targeted destruction, but the catastrophic weight of awareness. If he opens both eyes and looks directly at the world, reality will not survive the attention. Time will not resist it, and life will not matter. This is why the myth is not told widely. It's not comforting. It offers no heroes, no enemies, no salvation. Only the quiet horror that everything we know is balanced on the stillness of something ancient and untouchable. Zhulong does not threaten the world. The world exists because he hasn't yet changed his mind. The ancient texts never describe what Zhulong wants, because he is not driven by desire. He has no motives, no history of conflict, no cycle of death and rebirth. He is not bound by morality, chaos, or order. He exists outside the architecture of stories. His presence is elemental, like gravity or time, but with form, something you could theoretically see, but never understand. In rare descriptions, the light from his eyes bends the air into new shapes. Mountains rise under his gaze. Forests bloom in fast motion where his breath touches the ground. But this creation is unintentional. It is the byproduct of a being that never meant to shape the world. His role is not guardian or destroyer, but origin. And if the balance ever breaks, if a force disturbs his endless slumber, the damage won't come in waves or fire. It will come quietly, as the structure of existence unravels. The sky will stop shifting. Days will stretch endlessly until crops rot and people forget how to sleep. Or night will arrive and never leave, draining warmth from every surface, trapping the planet in stillness. And there will be no warning, no final roar, no great battle, only eyes opening, only a breath that does not end, only light that burns without heat and silence that feels alive. The most dangerous creature you've never heard of is not coming. He's already here. He always was. So why was Zhulong forgotten? Why does a creature so vast, so central to the mechanics of existence, appear in only fragments of ancient texts? Because there is nothing to worship, nothing to appease, no dialogue to be had. Humans build stories around things they can fight, love, or understand. Zhulong offers none of that. He doesn't punish or reward. He doesn't move toward or away. His stillness is infinite, and his power requires no explanation. The early scholars who wrote of him did so without decoration. They described what he does, not why. Because there is no why, there is only the function. Zhulong opens his eyes. The world begins. Zhulong breathes. The world is warm. He closes his eyes. Darkness falls. His body does not coil with purpose. It lies across the cold limits of creation, like a boundary between the real and the unreachable. And the deeper message of his myth is perhaps the most terrifying. The world doesn't need gods to end. It doesn't need war or judgment. It only needs silence. It only needs Zhulong to shift, to notice, to stop. He doesn't have to destroy anything. He only has to exist slightly differently than he does now. That's what makes him dangerous. That's why the myth survives in whispers. Not because people feared his wrath, but because they feared what would happen if he ever opened both eyes and remembered we were here. In the remote texts of Taoist cosmology, there is a region referred to only as the end of the north, a realm where no stars move, where sound never echoes, and where breath leaves the mouth but never returns. This is where Zhulong rests, though rest is the wrong word. His body spans a landscape so vast it reshapes the horizon. One end coils through jagged mountains of ice that have never melted. The other disappears beneath seas no sailor has ever mapped. His spine forms ridgelines. His coils create valleys. And somewhere in the center, the face, part dragon, part man, remains still, eyes closed, mouth open only enough for a breeze to escape, warming the frozen world around him. The myths say no temple stands in his name because no temple could contain his meaning. He is not a force of nature. He is the framework beneath it. Stories tell of creatures that approached him seeking power. They returned blind or mad, or not at all. Not because he attacked them, but because their minds could not hold the shape of what they saw. Even the gods, the ones carved into cliffs and worshipped by dynasties, do not speak of Zhulong. They serve cycles. He sets them. Time moves forward because he has not yet decided to reverse it. Seasons pass because his breath has not paused. And light and dark, the simplest truths of existence, are determined not by the sun, but by his eyes. Some ancient scrolls claim Zhulong once opened both eyes at the same time. Not out of anger, but curiosity. The result was not a storm, not an earthquake, but an event with no name. For 7 days, nothing moved. Light burned without shadow. Gravity weakened. Trees shed their roots. People could not sleep or wake. Time lost its shape. Those who lived through it describe the experience not as a disaster, but as being watched by something too old to care about life. And then, on the 8th day, Zhulong blinked once more. Darkness returned. Wind resumed. Children were born with silver eyes. None survived beyond adolescence. Today, in remote villages that still remember, there are rituals designed not to praise Zhulong, but to avoid his attention. Mirrors are covered at night. No lights are left burning at sunrise, and no child is ever named after fire. These customs are not based on fear of punishment. They are based on fear of visibility. Because in these places, people believe Zhulong doesn't need followers. He needs silence. And if ever too many voices speak his name, if too many torches are lit in his honor, he might look back, not to bless, not to destroy, but to notice. And in that moment, the cycle might shift again. Somewhere in the imperial archives, hidden beneath layers of deliberately misleading records, there is a scroll sealed with red wax and wrapped in skin that never decays. The scroll contains a map, not to a place, but to a pattern. It shows eclipses that never happened, sunrises that came too soon, and stars that pulsed out of rhythm. The pattern repeats every 1,000 years, and each time it ends with a symbol, the open eye of Zhulong. Scholars who tried to study the scroll All died within the same year, not from poison or accident, but from something stranger. Their bodies aged decades in weeks. Their skin cracked like scorched paper. Their last words, scrawled in shaking calligraphy, were always the same. He blinked. Because Zhulong's presence is not confined to his body. His awareness spreads like heat through water, slow but inevitable. To know of him deeply is to be known by him in return. And for reasons no one understands, being seen by Zhulong from within his sleep is more dangerous than being burned by his fire. One monk claimed that the dragon is not truly asleep, but meditating across eons, choosing when to act based on unseen rhythms. He called Zhulong the pulse beneath reality. And according to his final writings, if the pulse ever falters, the universe would need to relearn how to measure time, light, and death. In one of the oldest mountain villages near the northern frontier, there is a stone dial embedded deep in the ground, larger than a courtyard, and carved with concentric rings of symbols that no known dynasty ever used. The villagers call it the breath clock. They say it doesn't track minutes or hours, but something slower. Each ring completes a rotation only when Zhulong exhales. The outermost ring has moved twice in living memory. The center hasn't moved at all. The elders say that if it does, the sky will split. Priests from distant cities once came to study the dial. They brought instruments, translations, skepticism. They left with nothing. The clock didn't move for them. But it did move when an orphan child sat quietly beside it for 7 days, eating nothing, speaking to no one. On the 8th day, a faint hum echoed through the valley, and the inner ring twitched. The child never woke up. His eyes turned amber. His skin became warm to the touch even after death. And for months after, the stars in that region of sky flickered strangely, as if trying to blink through a haze. The villagers buried the boy under obsidian and swore never to speak of the incident again. But the story survived, whispered between generations, not as a warning, but as a reminder. Zhulong is not a myth. He is a process. And when something interferes with that process, the consequences ripple far beyond what human minds can hold. Not all encounters with Zhulong are accidental. There are records, rare and almost erased, of those who sought him out, not to worship, but to ask. These figures appear in historical records as madmen, prophets, or astronomers who vanished during winter solstices. One of them, known only as Lan Yao, traveled north beyond all mapped territory, carrying a lantern filled with frozen sunlight and a blade carved from midnight ore. He left behind a single letter. If he opens both eyes, tell the sky to remember how to scream. No one ever found his body. But years later, travelers reported a canyon where compass needles spin and birds refuse to fly. At its center is a sculpture, impossible to move, of a man kneeling with his face turned upward, eyes burned empty, but his mouth smiling. Surrounding the statue are markings not of any language, but of orbits, tides, and breath intervals. Some believe Lan Yao reached Zhulong and spoke a question so perfect that the dragon blinked in reply. Others believe the statue is not of him, but of someone who tried to replace him. Whatever the truth, the canyon is avoided now, not because it is cursed, but because standing too close makes people forget where they are, why they came, or what they were ever afraid of. And that is how Zhulong protects himself, not with fire, but with forgetting. In some versions of the myth, Zhulong is not one dragon but two, coiled so tightly around each other that they appear as one. One opens its eye to bring light. The other closes its eye to bring night. They share a body, but not a will. This theory comes from a hidden sect of calendar priests who noticed irregularities in solstice shadows. They claimed that each 1,000-year cycle ends with a struggle between the twin aspects, one seeking balance, the other seeking permanence. If the eye that opens refuses to close, the sun will scorch the earth until only ash remembers time. If the eye that closes refuses to open, Eternal night will blanket the world, and time will freeze inside it. To them, Zhulong is not a guardian of time, but a tether. He keeps the two extremes from unraveling reality. These priests predicted a moment called the stillite, when both aspects hesitate. In that instant, all light would pause. Shadows would vanish. People would feel neither cold nor warmth. And those who look up would see neither sky nor stars, but a reflection of their own heartbeat in the air. The stillite has not come, but every major dynasty recorded signs of it approaching. And now, with artificial lights drowning the heavens and digital calendars forgetting the old rhythms, some believe we've already stepped into it. We just haven't noticed yet. There is one final legend, older than ink, passed by breath alone. It tells of a city swallowed by the polar night, where people no longer cast shadows and the snow never melts. The city had no name, no ruler, only a single law. Do not look toward the horizon at dawn. They say this law was broken once by a child too curious for silence. She climbed the northern wall and waded through the long dark, her face turned to the edge of light. And when dawn arrived, she did not blink. What she saw is never written. But from that day forward, every candle in the city burned red, and every mirror showed only fire. The people vanished one by one, not screaming, not fleeing, simply forgetting to exist. Now, when explorers find remnants of the place, they find heat marks on stone, twisted metal warped like wax, and in the snow, long scorched lines stretching toward the sun. Zhulong had turned to face them, not with malice, not with wrath, but with attention. And that was enough. He does not punish. He does not chase. He does not roar. Zhulong breathes. He opens his eye. He closes it. And in doing so, he holds reality together by reminding it what time is. The most dangerous creature is not the one that just kills. It's the one that breaks the world just by being seen.